Raise your hand if you want fast and sustainable growth in your business. Yeah, sign us all up for that, right? It's one thing to want it, it's another thing to actually go after it and earn it. It will not be handed to you on a silver platter. Every single one of those ladies and everyone who, Goya, who also spoke tonight, it's like they have made intentional decisions to get out of their comfort zone. I remember Allie, I think about this all the time, where she said, I just started to say yes to the things that I knew made me uncomfortable. Say yes before I had a chance to think about it. And I needed to hear that when she was coaching me. And I was like, I had to kind of kicking me out of the nest, right? It's like, I needed to hear that. I just needed to start saying yes. I needed to start accepting the challenges. And, as I was thinking about this tonight, I come back to this every once in a while of like how blessed we are to have the support that we do as entrepreneurs. If you know any traditional business owners, the thought of having a mentor who is like directly connected to you and willing to pour into you and create that win-win relationship, how many people are like just wishing, dreaming that they would have something like that. But are you leveraging it the way that you would if you were running a traditional business? Probably not. Many people use their coach as like a lifeguard. They'll save me if I'm going down, right? Or like they'll rescue me if I make that SOS call. It's like, oh shoot, I haven't called them in forever, but like this person wants a case access, whatever it is. And it's like all of a sudden we're in panic mode communicating with our coach. And they are your secret weapon to helping create fast and sustainable growth. There's obviously the other things. There's the work habit, there's learning to run and process, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But your secret weapon is your relationship with your coach. And I think that was very evident in just the last panel. And anyone that you see that's moving on, they are in lockstep with their coach. And a few things that you can really do to change your like coach from they're a lifeguard to like they're an actual growth multiplier in my business is the relationship that you're building there. Number one, you want to be on the top of their mind. All right. I'm thinking about who's calling me all the time, right? Or who's messaging me every day. It's like this can range wherever you are in your business journey, you can level up in this space. It's not too late. It's not too early, right? There's oftentimes like I still have to like fight this in my mind that it's like, well, I don't want to bother them. They have so many other people that they're coaching, so many other things. They got kids. Anytime you have that thought come into your mind, ask yourself, well, how badly do I want to grow? Badly enough to send that text? Badly enough to pick up the phone, and it's okay if they decline you or whatever, they'll get back to you. But that is the fastest way to get your coach to be thinking about your business. Think about that Precious on this call. It's like I get messages probably 5 times a day from Precious. And it hasn't always been that way in her business journey, but it's like I know she's cranking, and it's every single week when I'm writing out the team meeting schedule. I'm like, I would like to put Precious on this schedule again because she's just nailing it from all categories. But I also think maybe for some of you guys who've been around for a little bit and you're like, obviously you're phase B, you're on this call, you're doing some work probably. I think Katie Revelis is a beautiful example of this because obviously she's been around the community, been a 3-6 for a while, but I feel like it was probably like a year ago, maybe Katie can confirm or deny, but that it's like our relationship has multiplied like crazy over the last year because she's just like, all right, I want to unlock this door, right? We've got, we're communicating at least and confirm. Okay, it's confirmed. We're on the same page. But it's like we're communicating often that Katie's greatest strength, and I just told her this the other day. It's like her greatest strength is her humility. And she pairs that with her genuineness and like exactly who she is, the work ethic. She's willing to get scrappy. There's so many great qualities, but the fact that she's humble when she comes to the table, and it's like I genuinely can tell her whatever I feel she actually needs to grow. Like last night, we had a pretty direct conversation and business coaching conversation, and it's like she's excited to execute on some of those things. So the thing is the stronger the relationship you have with your coach, the stronger the feedback you're going to get, the more specific the feedback that you're going to get. We were blessed to have Kenny and Jess, new platinums on the Chudasama team, came and shared with the Kutnik team on the Tuesday team meeting. And one of the things that they asked their coaches, Neil and Twinkle Chudasama, at the end of every game plan is what is something that we should know that you haven't told us yet. But you can ask that question and actually get feedback if you have the relationship. If the only time you're talking with your coach is every single month at your game plan, they might not have a lot of great feedback for you, right? They're like, keep on keeping on, right? Oh, let's just execute on this game plan. You're going to get some pretty vague feedback if there isn't that deep relationship there, right? Which comes from all angles. Obviously, you guys know you've earned mentorship in so many different areas: business, relationships, career, so many different things. What takes people out? It's not the business. It's not the business challenges. It's the other stuff that you're like, I know I should bring this to my coach, but I don't really want their perspective on it, right? But you know that they'll tell you what they feel or whatever, they'll give some perspective on you. That's the conversations that you need to be having, right? And if you can start to slowly grow that, again, this can happen at any point in your business journey. It's not too late. Don't feel like I've been around for too long, I've missed the boat, I missed the opportunity, or I'm brand new, or I haven't earned their time. Those are my favorite conversations. The new who's actually willing to call me, I'm like, "Oh yeah, this girl's ready to work, man." I'm like, I'm pumped about people like that because they're eager for that perspective. So, getting on your coach's radar is so key. So you need that relationship is huge in terms of creating fast and sustainable growth. But then the other piece, your work habit and building your work habit, but also the skill set. There's kind of a spectrum of people who are on this call. Many of you have been around for a while. You're like kind of golden in terms of the skill set. So maybe it's more of the work habit piece. Some of you are newer. And I think it's good to just maybe do a little self reflection on one, where am I at in my journey? Am I new in like learning how to network? I think Oakley had such a great example of like, hey, ton of initiations, but she also play huddled so much. And there's a spectrum of people there. And when it comes to play huddling and like getting feedback from your coach, you either play huddle everything forever and you're not willing to use your own brain and like be an entrepreneur and add your own personality and you're copy and pasting because it's most effective. No, it's not, because you're not learning. No copy and pasting allowed. If you're ever play huddling, that is just a hard rule. Maybe your coach hasn't told you that, but I think they'd probably agree, right? So it's like that's one end of the spectrum is you play huddle till death do us part, but you're not actually building your confidence because you're not using your own brain, right? Then there's the other end of the spectrum where you don't want to bother your coach, but you're like so excited about your business and you're having all these conversations. And then you're like, hey, I have someone to meet you. And your coach is like, who? Right? They have no idea. You want to find the happy medium and get in a communication with your coach and go, where should I fall? Right? It's like, how can I continue to graduate in my play huddling is what I call it. It's like play huddle everything to start. And then it's like, now you get to play huddle just when you're, sharing your story and everything after your story or whatnot. You want to graduate in that process and build your own personality, your own twist to it. This also happens in C-list networking. It's easy just to rinse and repeat, copy, paste. And if you're at the point that you're like, I'm consistent, right? You're consistent in your networking, you're doing a good amount of work. There's a lot of factors in terms of if you're not getting results. But a few people of late that we've, more even leaders on the team that they're consistent, but they're not getting the results. It's because their conversations are boring, right? Derek Malinowski mentioned this right at the team meeting, but Darian Riley, not a boring person whatsoever. If you get a chance to meet him, you write a LinkedIn conversation, snooze fest, right? And it's like what he needed to start to do was get over what was the most efficient and start to add personality, right? People should want to meet you when they hop on a call. Right? And are you adding some heart? Are you telling people like what you're actually thinking? Or is it just like, so happy that your job has been going well, blah, 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 blah. Have you thought about diversifying? Boring, right? You need to spice it up a little bit if that's the case. And that's where you can start to like build your brand. I remember asking Cassie, I'm like, how do you like, figure out what your brand is? Like how people feel like they have to identify their brand and then go for it. She's like, it'll unfold, Kelsey. Like as you start to do more work, as you start to run more meet and greets, as you start to create more content, naturally there's things that you're going to start to gravitate towards from your story that are more important. So don't let that hold you back either. You have to find your own voice. right? So it's like building, developing the skill of networking is important, developing the work habit, which I think was talked about a little bit tonight, but then pairing the work habit with like truly studying and working to learn the evaluation process. That's when you step into the role of like an entrepreneur. And I was similar to Buki, where I'm like, if other people would run the process the entire time for me, that would be great. Right. Like, I mean, I still love to sit back. Michael and I have a few couples in the process right now. And I'm like, I don't mind sitting back on the sidelines. And like, I mean, obviously we still collab on these process appointments, but someone has to lead. Otherwise, it's going to be a 2 hour appointment. So it's like, I'm cool with him leading every once in a while. I would still much rather prefer to just like sit back and watch the show. But what helped me sometimes was remembering that there's some people that only I can sponsor. Jaritzia is probably the only one who could sponsor her mom, right? So many people out there are waiting for you to be the person to lead them, but it is uncomfortable, right? Because I'm like, well, I always felt like Michael will be so much better at it. And obviously, we have so many ladies, right? That I'm like, everyone would be better at it than me. But if I never built the skill, never be able to control the growth of your business. So going back to growing, a fast and sustainable growth in your business, the fast is the willingness to do the work ethic, to do the work, but it's also the willingness to study, put yourself out there, fall on your face every once in a while, and develop the skill. But sometimes people hide behind the fact, going back to play huddling, that you can do the same thing in an evaluation process and your networking, whatnot. And the like sweet spot is to keep doing work, but also get coaching along the way. So an example of this is like Rita. Everyone knows Rita, I feel like, because it's like she's just kicking butt all the time. Great work ethic. Rita has never like slowed down. There's no stopping Rita. She will be moving on, and like she will earn every bit of it because she's been willing to work and develop all of the skills. But Rita was like, she was probably close to putting together her 3-6 ship. And we went back to doing a little bit of play huddling where she could solidify wrapping up her meet and greet one. She ran so many meet and greet ones at that point, but she noticed that there was a gap, right? And she's not afraid to do a lot of work, but also you want the work to be effective at some points too. And so she was really zoning in on like crisping up her process and stayed coachable. So there was a stint, I feel like it was like a couple months, Rita, back and forth, that it was like she'd send me a voice note. Here's how how I would wrap this one up. I go, okay, here's some verbiage. And then she'd send me back her version of it. And I'd send her back some feedback. She'd send me back, right? That can happen at any point. Maybe that's how you're covering network marketing because you feel a little shaky on it. Maybe it's how you're prepping someone for a team eval, whatever. So many different things. But the thing is she didn't stop doing work because she wanted to perfect her process. That was something that I was guilty of as well. I'm like, if I just like listen to enough recordings, if I just like observe a lot and I just like listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books, and maybe then I'll be ready. And we sometimes hide behind the fact that our coaches are busy and we're waiting on them to get back to us on some feedback or perspective or exactly what I should do in the next step of a process, when sometimes you just got to own it and trust yourself. I feel this is something that one of the there's so many differences between men and ladies, right? But they tend to trust themselves sometimes a little bit more than we do. They don't maybe need as much validation as sometimes we need the validation of like, yep, it's good, green light, here we go. Sometimes you just got to trust yourself. If you've run a meet and greet one before, like you know the general idea, right? And it's like, keep things moving. Don't let that be the waiting on your coach to be the thing that is like slowing you down. Keep moving on. This is another great point from Kenny and Jess the other day. It's like really the secret to their success is they did a lot of work and they were uber consistent. 8 to 10 meet and greets a month from like month 3, I think approximately was. I didn't jot down the exacts, but it's like from that time, and just moved on. And they took ownership of starting to run, I think, his own evaluation processes like month 4 or 5 or something like that. Because you can't just wait on your coach forever. And at some point, you have to develop the skill. Because the other thing that comes along with running a business in this environment is leading other people. And in terms of getting out of your comfort zone, if you're not willing to do it, you'll never be able to lead someone else to do that. right? From developing clients to running a process, so many different things. Developing the skill of in-person networking. Sometimes that's the holds people back. If you don't develop that skill, you'll never be able to help someone on your team that's actually where their best strength is going to be because you weren't willing to get out of your comfort zone to do that. There's a little bit of the there's a little bit of the responsibility that comes from, stepping up to this plate and really choosing to be a leader in this environment. And it's really uncomfortable, but man, it is such a huge blessing. And like I never regret anything that got me out of my comfort zone. Right? You probably don't either. Afterwards, you're like, I'm a freaking boss, right? You're like, look at me go. I just did that. It's like the first time I attended a networking event and like dressing all sharp and whatever. Like I felt like a boss coming out of that, you guys. So, what is that thing that you're getting a little bit stagnant, a little bit settled in your comfort zone that it's time to stretch it out? It's like, Jaritzi, I love your story is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, B2B. I'm not a great mentor for someone who's doing B2B because I haven't. And it's like, that's a new skill that I could learn. There's so many different things. Now, don't get distracted with every single thing that everybody is doing. But if you're too comfortable right now with the current work that you're doing and the current skills that you have, things aren't going to change, right? If you want to create significant growth in your business and you're like, time for the exponential growth, what's that changing factor?
This is a copyrighted program of The Collective, powered by Markham Man Productions, affiliated with Marknet Incorporated. Duplication